Okay, it happens to be Saturday afternoon, March the 23rd, 2013. All right. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Progressive Discussions. This is Progressive Discussions, and I am your host, James P. Madonna. And let me formally pipe aboard my co-host and mentor aboard our progressive liberal pirate ship here at Newsletter Censored Research Center in northeastern New Jersey, which is where we do the show live and we pre-record it. So it is on demand anytime you want to watch it on the internet. Ahoy, matey, and welcome aboard our progressive liberal pirate ship. My co-host and mentor, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman. How are you doing? How are you feeling this Saturday, sir?
Okay, now that I got back online.
My bosun's whistle. Yes, the Reverend Dr. Bill had a corrupt System 32 file, which is the drive.
Or missing.
Missing
or corrupt.
Yeah, either or, because it is a driver. File.
Oh, the Windows, you know.
Oh.
Hey, you're kicking me around, man.
Billy Jr. just went flying.
They're loaded in the beginning when you're booting up those files.
What? You mean the paintings are loaded?
No.
Oh yeah.
The System 32 config.
Yeah, the first thing you see is the System 32 config, con mango, con papaya, and all the other fruits. Avocados.
Pomegranate.
Sour sop, which is 10,000 times stronger than chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as guayabano or guanabana.
Oh, menage.
Menage? No,
menage.
that's what my grandmother used to say in Italian when she got frustrated and upset. You know who died? I thought he was dead already, but I saw a post today that the Master Blaster, Joe Weider.
Joe Weider, the guy, the
bodybuilding icon.
With all those products.
Well, let me tell you something. People don't realize this, but Joe Weider started off and got his big break with a true icon of weightlifting, strength training, which Mr. Former Olympic weightlifting coach and founder of the York Barbell Company, Bob Hoffman, gave Joe Weider his first break, and they started off as partners in one of the earliest muscle magazines. And what happened was, after Joe Weider became famous and he went on his own and he became the Master Blaster, he all of a sudden denied any affiliation with Mr. Bob Hoffman of York, Pennsylvania. He denied that Bob Hoffman helped them or that he was in business with him.
He did it all himself. Sounds Republican.
He sounds like a Republican. Yeah, he did it all himself. So, see, this is what happens, people, when it comes to the subject of money. You think you have a friend, you think you have a buddy, and you do things out of the goodness of your heart, the cockles of your heart. The old timers used to say that. The cockles, I don't know what that means.
Warm the cockles of my heart.
And you bend over backwards, and you give
Today when you bend over backwards, you know what happens.
When you bend over backwards, you end up bending way forwards. You end up bending way over forwards, like Mr. Benjamin.
Dropping the soap.
You become Mr. Benjamin Dover, otherwise known as Ben Dover. And this is what happened.
To his friends only.
Yeah, right. And, you know, I mean, whether he used a little KY jelly or not, but the point is, they conveniently forget the people, their loved ones, their friends, the people that really help them once they're on top. But I heard, was it Ed Norton that said it on The Honeymooners? Be kind to the people you meet on the way up because you're going to meet the same people
On the way down.
on the way down. So, but regardless, if he really did die recently, we send our condolences to the Master Blaster of steroids. Because, you know, hey, this is progressive, uncensored, FCC and corporate free, no holds barred internet talk radio, and you know we have to tell you the truth. The truth is often a very bitter pill to swallow. Now, I'm going to start off with a monologue here, with Chiselers Hall of Shame. Now, I originally started Chiselers Hall of Shame in connection to my food and drink group, which is growing very large, called Everything is Food. And also when I used to do the craft beer reviews and food reviews. Chiselers Hall of Shame was a food and drink critique that exposed people who I consider to be chiselers. You know, like people in the food business, food industry who, you know, start off kissing their customers' ass, and then when they become successful, they start cutting corners. And, you know, just like any deregulated company in the United States, they start to screw the public and lie to you, and they chisel you. They cut corners, quality descends, maybe customer service descends also, and the portions also descend. They get smaller and smaller. Well, anyway, this time I want to discuss food packaging with an example. When it comes to shopping in your wonderful toxin-ridden supermarkets, you know, the packaging originally was either 16 ounces, which is 1 pound, 16 ounces, unless you're in another country and you use the metric system, but it was generally 16 ounces and sometimes 8 ounces, which is 1 cup, or 16 ounces, fluid ounces, which is a pint, I believe. 2 cups make 1 pint. So this is how packaging generally was with food. Lo and behold, some greedy CEO in the food industry, of course in the United States, decided, oh, since we love our customers so much, let us lighten the load, make it easier for them to carry their groceries by shrinking the size of the packaging.
That's wonderful.
And keeping the price either the same or raising it.
Oh, that's not too good.
That's not good at all. Now, the example I want to show you, well, first, before I show you the example, I just want to say that greedy bastard that owns Pub 46 is a Cuban guy named Rob. Shame on you. You are the one of 2 names that will be on the Chiselers Hall of Shame, because just typical of any American company, they, year by year, you start giving less and less to your customers. Well, lo and behold, when myself and 3-time ECPW World Heavyweight Champion and a star of the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke and Marissa Tomei, the reinforcer Andrew Anderson, his daughter Olivia, and myself went to Pub 46 for all-you-can-eat corned beef and cabbage, free corned beef and cabbage Sunday, and lo and behold, after all the years they offered this, they did away with it. They did away with it, and they had a blackboard sign, corned beef sandwich, $10.95, and all these high prices for something that is usually cheap. You know, it's beef cured in brine, and all these high prices. So this guy Rob that owns Pub 46 decided to get greedy. He did away with it, and we went to a high-end buffet instead, and we still enjoyed ourselves. But the point is, he stopped doing it. Oh, you can't once a year, Robbie. of Pub 46, you can't spare a little cabbage, which is the cheapest vegetable you can buy, and corned beef, you know, to show goodwill and appreciation for your customers on St. Patrick's Day? Shame on you, Pub 46 on Route 46 East in Clifton, New Jersey. The owner, Rob. Shame on you, you greedy, cheap bastard. Now, that takes care of that. Now, the second part of our Chiselers Hall of Shame, in this case, it is yogurt. And yogurt originally came in 16-ounce cups, you know, or a quart, 32 ounces. Well, you can still find a quart, but what they did was a lot of the companies that advertise yogurt on television, the big companies, they went from 8 ounces down to 6 ounces. And here we have a company, Yoplait, play on words. I mean, they use French or Italian words to look fancy and European so they could jack up the price. This Greek yogurt, unbelievable, 5.3 ounces. Originally, all the yogurt packaging was 8 ounces. Then they went to 6 ounces. Now 5.3 ounces. Shame on you, Yoplait yogurt, the company that makes Yoplait. Well, Yoplait is playing around with their consumers. Okay, so I would boycott this company as well as all the companies that don't support labeling for GMOs. I would boycott them too. But I don't know, could you get a good shot? Well, they know what Yoplait is. They know what they see it advertised on TV. All right, shame on you, 5.3 ounce cup. What's next? A shot glass of yogurt? Stinking
I remember
cheap,
Yoplait
greedy
had those
bastards. And the ice cream, these companies like Breyers and Turkey Hill, they keep on shrinking the ice cream. It used to be a half gallon.
Now it's 48 ounces.
God only knows where it's
going.
It gets smaller and smaller. Pretty soon there'll be nothing but pint containers for the same high price, and then eventually everything will be in a shot glass, and you'll be paying highway robbery prices.
Well, revelation.
I mean, even look, even something like
Penny for the wheat or whatever, and don't hurt the oil.
Well, conservatives love to deregulate companies. So you have, I mean, any business in our area, New York metropolitan, tri-state area, they're all crooks. I mean, it could be something like pets, for instance. If you want to get a baby veiled chameleon, they usually go for $50 to $60. But around here, they want friggin' $90 for a little baby veiled chameleon. Route 4 Aquarium on Broadway in Elmwood Park. Greedy bastards, man. It's from $50 to $60. You want $90 for a creature that lays a lot of eggs? Greed, and Republicans love to deregulate and allow companies to lie and cheat you and flim-flam you and deceive you.
Well, that's because Republicans and Democrat enablers believe that corporations are better than you. That's why they're the ones who give them their campaign moolah.
Oh, they're better, and they're people now.
Well, yeah, they're persons.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you know the story of that.
But in Scalia, you know, good God, they are persons.
When they called, oh, screw him. When they called...
Somebody should screw him.
When they called me to jury duty, I told them flat out, of course I'm going to be biased in favor of the injured employee against the corporation. Of course I feel corporations are not...
You weren't selected, pal.
No.
You went bye-bye fast.
Of course I feel that corporations are not persons. Now,
They actually asked you that question? Whether you believe that corporations are persons?
Well, they give you a checklist, and if you don't agree with something, you put the X in the box, and the part about corporations being a person, I says no, I don't set right with me.
No.
And would you be biased against the corporation in favor of the injured employee? And I checked. Yeah, I would be biased.
Well, and the fact of the matter is,
I would always be biased against the corporation.
The fact of the matter is, the supposed precedental law,
Mr. Spock took
which
a flight.
makes corporations a person, does not exist. It was a head note put in there by a corrupt clerk when that decision went down in the railroad case in California.
Even clerks can be corrupted?
Oh, well, he was. He worked for the railroad, man.
Jesus.
And so there is no actual law on the books that states that a corporation is a person.
Is it right?
Okay, none. Does not exist.
No. Now I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
And it's not. I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. It's a nice question for an honest answer. Okay, President Barack Obama, in his most recent speech, when he went to
Israel.
Somebody told my mother told me he had a yarmulke on, or something.
Well, I think he does at a certain point for respect or something. I know he went to. Oh, geez, it flew
Jordan?
out of my mind. No, he went. That's where he is now, or so. But he went to the grave of
Yitzhak
Rabin, yes, and he kneeled down and said a prayer and everything.
He was assassinated, right?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Anyway, my question is, Barack Obama says that he will be giving like $200 million to Jordan to take care of Syrian refugees. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Sandy victims are still, and other Americans like veterans and middle-class people that got their homes foreclosed and whatever, multitudes of Americans are still homeless right here in the United States. So why is there a need to give $200 million, and I'm assuming it's American taxpayers' money?
Well, where else it's coming? Actually, it's borrowed money from the banks.
Right. Why instead of going to help victims of natural disasters and the homeless in the United States that are born Americans that are in the United States, people living in tents like
Lakewood, New Jersey.
Lakewood, New Jersey, and the poor,
if they're still there,
and the poor souls, the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan living in the woods in Florida in tents. Why isn't this $200 million going to help homeless Americans, and why is it going to help Syrian refugees?
Well, the Bible says,
unless there's a political reason for this,
that America, which is the modern-day descendants of ancient Israel, the 10 tribes,
right,
says that we buy our lovers.
Like a hooer.
Like a hooer. We buy our lovers, and then they stab us in the back.
Well, eventually, there's no loyalty from a prostitute. I mean, it's strictly the exchange of money.
Strictly
but at least from a prostitute, you know what you're getting when you're handing over money. And when the money stops flowing, you know, you're not so handsome anymore. When the money stops flowing, you know, it's like a psychologist, like where they get almost $100 an hour for 45 minutes. And as soon as that minute is up, from what I understand, they're always
they're giving you the bums rush out the door.
Yeah, they're looking at the clock, and from what I'm told, if you try to talk to them, they don't really say much.
Yeah, off the clock.
They're rushing you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, right. Next time. Yeah, right. Next time, and then you get the bum rush out the door. So, hey, they care about you as long as they're getting paid. Wonderful human race.
Because in America, health care of any, is a business.
Well, it should be a right in a free democracy. It should be a right.
Well,
Education
yeah, it should be a right, but
education and good health care should be a right.
It should also not be the most expensive in the world with the lousiest results, which it is.
Oh, the statistics of people getting infections and dying in hospitals is very high.
Well, no, I'm just
And the
talking about
costs.
regular results.
And the cost alone.
Yeah.
Well, over $600 just to visit the ER.
Yeah.
Over here at the other bunch of crooks, Hackensack University Medical Center. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I don't want. I'm not a. Don't get me wrong. I am the farthest from supporting any Republican. Oh, incidentally, I've been seeing banners posted about Michelle
Bachmann?
Bubbleheaded Bachmann, and they show her shouting about something. She's got a huge mouth. What a huge wind tunnel pie hole she has. I mean, it's like really big.
Yeah, she's yakking about Obamacare. It's going to kill elderly. It's going to kill children. It's going to kill that.
What about not having any health care, Michelle Bachmann?
That's what she wants.
What is that going to do for the elderly and the handicapped and the poor?
Republicans are not there to do anything. Just
So,
look back into history.
If
They've done nothing.
If Obamacare is going to kill the poor, then what is no care going to do?
Same
Michelle
thing, kill
Bachmann.
the poor.
She looks like, with that big mouth, she looks like she should do MILF porn. Her and Sarah Palin. You ever see the mouth on her? It's like humongous.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but
And there wouldn't be a good amount of sensation because it would be too big.
No, you would have
There'd be no friction.
She's an idiot. She's an idiot Republican. So the sensation would be, it's just to punch her lights out. Well, you know, another funny banner was Sarah Palin saying, "I didn't know I was still relevant." Hey, man, you were never relevant. The only time she was relevant is when she was a running mate with
McCain.
With John McCain.
They were mavericks.
And she had a lot of John McCain's money allocated for her wardrobe. For her designer wardrobe, her and her little slut daughter. But all right, this is the big one.
Uh-oh.
You get ready? It's the last before we start our readings, but it's the big one. Oh gosh, it's so upsetting when I read this. The wonderful, greedy, corrupt, fascist, corporatist Republican Congress sold our health out recently to Monsanto. That law that I guess Monsanto was pushing to, what is it? It gives them the green light with their GMOs.
I'm not aware of that.
Well,
apparently
they got a hands-off green light policy for Monsanto to go ahead and do what they do best, which is no good.
In Washington.
In Washington, the Congress passed this recent law involving pressure that was being put on Monsanto, you know, to do the right thing.
The label?
The labeling, and just the practice of creating and promoting their genetically modified crap, their seeds, and to continue to do business with their poisons, and despite, you know, what genetically modified foods really do to your health. They basically got the green light from Congress, and who controls Congress? The Republicans.
Well, I'm not aware of it, you know, exactly what was going down.
Oh yeah, it's I posted information about
I know
it.
They won basically in California.
Well, on a federal level, they got their way due to the Congress giving them, taking all the pressure off of them and giving them the green light. So it doesn't surprise me.
No.
Politicians.
Money, money, money.
You know, Monsanto and their lobbyists were successful, at doing what they needed to do. And you
Screw
know,
us.
I'm not, huh?
Screw us.
Screw us. Well, I'm not surprised at this news.
No.
It doesn't surprise me, but I mean, really, I'm sure they show no remorse for
That's because they're not a person.
poisoning
Only a
us.
person can show remorse.
Oh yeah. Well, they're only a person when it comes to winning in court, according to Republicans. They're a
Yeah,
person.
they have the same rights as you under the 14th Amendment.
Yeah,
Due process.
when somebody drags a corporation into court, they have the same rights as us.
Oh, and of course the government makes it so that you can't sue them for the biggie buckies. You know what I mean? They protect the state, they protect the company, the corporation.
Yeah, but they have
etc.
the biggie buckies. It's not going to hurt them
Well, they want to keep the biggie buckies.
to pay a fine or to pay out in a lawsuit.
How about taxes?
They don't pay taxes,
Thank you.
and they still don't pay taxes.
That's why they have the biggie buckies.
So all those lovely Republicans that are in the spotlight, you know, your old ugly turtle face Mitch McConnell, the weeper John Boehner, these are all the people that, and even some handful of Democrats
Yes.
I heard sold out to Monsanto.
Yes.
And their names were posted online, and but whoever they are, the fact is they're Democrats, and they're supposed to do the right thing for the people that voted them in, for the little guy, but they're not.
And they are not statesmen.
So
They are whores. as you
whores.
say.
And where do we find corrupt whores? Let's see, dictatorships, you know, fascist governments and
And
dictatorships.
plutocracies, fascist governments, as we have with the corporations in charge,
Corporate
married to the government.
That's right, corporate plutocracies, and above all else, capitalism. Everywhere capitalism goes,
Rears its ugly head
corruption is
right there.
right there behind.
You see what happened in the Soviet Union when it went bye-bye.
Right.
Now we got all those Russian oligarchs or whatever with all the money in Cyprus banks and etc. Money laundering and etc. etc. Hey, you know,
You know, it reminds me of the TV series The Bible, when I was telling you, man, those kings from the Old Testament were brutal and cruel as all hell. They were cruel and, you know, and greedy, and of course there was no middle class. It was the royal family that hogged everything, and then there was the poor. And Rome came in and demanded their taxes, and I mean, the human race consists of vile scumbags. I mean, throughout history, they kill for pleasure. They rob. They take possession of things that don't belong to them, like natural resources of the planet Earth that belong to God.
and they torture.
And they're supposed to be shared, by the way.
They torture,
Right.
converting by the sword, etc., etc.
Well, even today, you know, the corporatists torture, and you know, there's something going on with Guantanamo Bay. They want to.
Supposed to be closed.
They're supposed to be closed, and you know, it's human nature. It's evil, wicked human nature. But it's funny how Americans, deceived lemmings, deluded, stupid, numbskull Americans, they see what the Republicans are doing in the Congress and the Senate, but they keep on blaming Obama. They keep on blaming the United States government, and never corporations, always the government. My Aunt Barbara is constantly trashing Obama and Democrats and liberals to my mother, and my mother refuses to hear it, and she's only mimicking who she looks up to the most, which is Uncle Phil. Conservative Uncle Phil. She, whatever he says, she follows, and this is the point. People that are conservative and they're against social programs that they call entitlements, and they're against Social Security, so on and so forth. Their objective is not to pay any taxes ever at all, and to be able to hoard their wealth and not help anybody. And to stick somebody else with the bill, like the middle class.
And to destroy the economy, because that's what happens.
Right.
When you have a contracted economy with all the money up the top.
Siphoning upward.
Okay.
And then you have all these conspiracy theory organizations that continue to blame government. The problem, according to them, is government. They don't. They never mention. Well, the only time they mention corporations is when on Jesse Ventura's show, you know, he went after Goldman Sachs. I agree 100%. They should be in prison. But other than that, they're blaming government for everything. And they should be going after these CEOs that send their lobbyists to Washington. Get to the root of the corruption. So that's basically it. Our health was
because the money is too strong. It's involved. It's weaved in there like a spider web.
And that's the problem.
Through everything.
Money is in politics.
Follow the money.
That's the problem. If you don't
Whenever you got a problem with it, follow the money.
Right. In order to be seen during a campaign and be heard, why must you have millions of dollars to be heard and to campaign?
Because that keeps the guys that don't have the millions of dollars out. That's very simple.
Keeps them out.
Yeah.
Just like
why would you want that competition? You know?
Just like a nightclub charging a cover charge because they want to keep the riffraff out. They want to keep the honest people out. So they're weeding out the honest people out there who don't have the backing naturally, because the honest people are going after the rich, the 1% and the corporations, so therefore they don't have the campaign contributions. So they keep them out. So you only have the corporate ass kissers that support the 1%.
And that's why we have the government we have and the corporations we have. You know?
The corporate whores, the cocksuckers. Yeah, I mean, that's why we have what we have. It's really very plain and simple. It's not rocket science to figure out. But these people, these lemmings out there in the United States, they keep on believing the conservative lies and propaganda. They believe their stupid cultist ideology, their religion, which has nothing to do with the God of the Bible.
Right. And that's exactly, and that's why they get away with what they get away with, because they feel, and a lot of other people feel, that they occupy the moral high ground.
But they,
in comparison to a Democrat who is a baby killer, a secular humanist.
Well, it was proven that
an atheist.
It was proven that the embryo that breeds like a fish and the fertilized egg is not a human being. Scientifically, it's not a human being.
Yes, but just the other day, some states or whatever passed a bill that you cannot have a abortion after 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
So that's what I've been reading.
That's an embryo breathing like a fish.
That's what I've been reading about states that are anti-woman, anti-woman's issues.
Yeah.
That's what it was about. Yes.
That's all your Republican garbage that put those things through.
Yeah. Anti-female Republicans.
They believe, as I was trying
Women
to say
haters.
before, the problem is they believe,
and bigots too,
they are doing God's work. They are protecting us from the baby killer Democrat, the secular humanist, the atheist.
Yeah, but these Republicans are hypocrites.
They're hypocrites in two ways. Number one, they don't have the authority of the Bible.
They don't know the God of the Bible.
And they are arrogant in their morality because they have no morality.
And they're like sociopaths where they look at you in the eye and they blatantly lie to you about a book, a book that they don't know anything about.
For them, the end justifies the means, as I said. they believe they're doing God's work. Why? The people on Wall Street believe they're doing God's work when they crashed our economy.
Even many people that do God's work are not doing God's work. I just watched an expose video on these prosperity preachers like Peter Popoff and Joel Osteen and Benny Hinn, and they had people coming forth. Of course, the organization was the Canadian media that went after.
Oh yeah, of course.
You don't see the American media exposing all these phony, greedy, phony, baloney, crooked evangelists. Oh no. But they had witnesses, they interviewed them. These people, Peter Popoff only blesses those that tithe a sizable amount of money,
well,
I believe.
Number one, if he's a hypocrite,
tries to heal.
And has no authority from the Bible, he can't bless anybody. And besides, even if he could, blessings and cursings are for God to do, not him.
Yeah, well, he lays his hand on the person's head, and then all of a sudden he takes the woman's crutches and throws them up in the air, and the woman starts boogie and she starts dancing.
It's fake because he has not the ability to heal. So, because there are things you must do before you can heal. And healing today only occurs in God's true church.
So those handicapped people, those disabled people are probably actors, they're shills. They're fakes, phonies, and frauds.
And that goes all the way back to Elmer Gantry and you know those there was a
religious
nuts.
There was a Father Divine many years ago.
And Coughlin and all the other garbage.
Reverend.
How about Oral Roberts?
Oral Roberts.
Oh, he could do it through the television. Put your hand on the television.
He says, I have to make a quick $50 million or God's going to take me.
God's going to take me.
And Jimmy Swaggart, always talking about lust, and he's picking up hookers on the highway, and he continues. And then there's Reverend Ike has the blessing plan. The more money you send Reverend Ike, the more God will bless you. You have to sign a contract of how much money you're going to send him every month. But the list goes on and on and on. But people still send these people money,
and they still respect them. Still honor them.
Just like people still vote Republican, and they don't have a pot to piss in, and they're still voting Republican. Is it America, or is it something worldwide that makes certain people become suckers?
Well, it's worldwide, of course.
Desperate people that don't want to hear the real truth?
Desperate people and regular people, your lemmings as you call them,
yes,
are looking for a savior.
They want a big Santa.
They won't do it themselves. They're looking for a big daddy.
A big sugar daddy, a big Santa Claus.
To help them.
A genie.
They don't understand that it's their job to do that.
Just like these,
to bring about the better world or whatever.
Just like these born again evangelicals that feel you can have a conversation and talk to God anytime you want, for any little.
Well, they can't.
For any little request, yeah.
They can't, but the elect can.
And the elect.
They have a stovepipe to God.
And the elect consists of 144,000.
Because they have God's Holy Spirit.
But they change.
But the vast majority of human beings do not.
But the evangelicals are always misinterpreting all these.
Well, of course they are. That's been since who knows when.
You know, like I was told, 144,000 is not really literally 144,000.
What is it?
It's all the born-again Christians are going to get raptured up in the sky.
So, in other words, they're calling the Bible a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And try to convince them to think the right way.
Well, you're not out to convince them. And number one, they cannot be convinced.
Even if you hit them with the shillelagh?
Even if you hit them with the shillelagh. In fact, you might knock it all out of them.
Blackthorn. Imported. All right, let us sink our piranha teeth into these readings. I'm sorry I took up so much time, but we had very important recent topics to go over. I say it's very important when our health is sold out by Washington.
Microsoft is entangled in a U.S. government investigation into whether the software maker and some of its business partners resorted to bribery to close deals in China,
I believe it.
Romania, and Italy.
I despise Microsoft. I have so many glitches associated with Microsoft, with Windows. I despise them. I loathe them.
I loathe them.
I think Linux is the bomb. Linux, Mint, Linux, Ubuntu, but I hate Microsoft. You know how many problems every week I have with Microsoft? Damn it. All right, go ahead, continue.
Citing anonymous people familiar with the matter, the Wall Street Journal said the Justice Department and the Securities and Exchange Commission are examining whether kickbacks were paid to foreign officials to help close the sale of software. The probe's targets include resellers of Microsoft software, company consultants, and Microsoft's own employees outside the United States. The newspaper emphasized that the inquiry remains in an early stage and that there have been no accusations of wrongdoing. Now what will happen is they'll be hit with a small fine, which will be chalked up to the cost of doing business. In other words, no punishment and nobody goes to jail.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
March 20 is the 10-year anniversary of our invasion of Iraq. A war that has taken the lives of 4,488 soldiers.
Not counting the...
not counting the wounded.
Not counting the peripheral damage, the civilians of those...
The figure for the Iraqis is anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million. Take your pick. Plus the refugees.
Is it possible that many of the so-called insurgents were simply Iraqis that did not want to be occupied?
They were Sunnis who were put out of business with the invasion and the fall of Saddam.
When you say put out of business, you're talking about oil?
They were no longer in charge.
In charge?
The Sunnis were in charge under Saddam, not the Shia.
Were there any oil interests in Iraq? Or just outside of Iraq? Kuwait?
You mean United States?
Yeah.
No.
So I'm trying to figure out why we were there.
We were there because the neocons believed that they could get the oil. You see.
In other words, by controlling and occupying Iraq, they would have a greater stronghold on the Middle Eastern oil. So they felt that Saddam Hussein was kind of a threat to their acquisition of this oil.
Correct.
And of course, the Bushes are in cahoots with the oil industry, right?
But the point is, America, and more than 100,000 Iraqi civilians, which has cost us. Actually, this figure is incorrect. It says 1 trillion. It's $3 trillion.
Yeah,
now, without the Iraq War, there's no deficit.
That could have done...
Now, what does that have to do with cutting social programs?
That could have done wonders for the economy.
Ooh. Remember, when G.W. Bush went into office, there was a surplus. There was no deficit. None.
When you mean he inherited
a surplus.
A surplus from Bill Clinton.
Correct.
And he screwed it up.
His 2 tax cuts and these wars and the Medicare Part B. Yes, he screwed it up.
And all the bailouts to Wall Street, the welfare for the rich.
Which began under him, yes.
And then what did the Republicans do when they took control of Congress? They blame everything on Obama.
Yes.
And never mention Bush.
Obama was honest enough to put all this shit on the deficit, the credit card, which Bush did not do. The wars were paid for with continuing resolutions and were never figured into the deficit.
You
Just
know,
like Medical Part D.
I bucked heads with a few people in a bar once that they actually believed G.W. Bush was a war hero.
Ah!
They made him out to
Mission accomplished!
They made him out to be an American hero. Actually, he was at Pub 46. They made him out, as far as I'm concerned, he's a hero.
He's a war criminal, along with Mr. Cheney, as he likes his name to be pronounced.
Cheney. But do you...
Wolfowitz,
but do you,
Pearl, etc.
But do you see how genius and clever their brainwashing is, the right wing? That they actually have completely brainwashed Americans.
They rewrite history.
And rewrite history.
Correct. Now, if people were watching MSNBC last night at 9 o'clock, they saw Hubris, which explained how the Iraq War was sold to the American people.
I just wish MSNBC staff would tell all and mention corporate names and CEO names. And
Ed Schultz does.
What about Maddow?
Ed Schultz is a man of the working man.
Okay, what about Maddow? She a little corporate whore?
I do not watch her show.
I know she's
I watch Pierce Morgan. I'm eating my nuts.
I know she's a motor mouth, and she likes to joke around when she's on talk shows as a guest.
Well, she narrated Hubris.
Yeah.
Which was written by Isikoff and Korn.
They should give a job to Randy Rhoads.
Yes.
MSNBC and Lionel.
And Mike Malloy.
Yeah, they got definitely. MSNBC should.
Anyway, that money sure could have been used in today's sequester economy. In 2003, I was against our invasion of Iraq because I never believed our government's assertion that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. In 1999, some UN weapons inspectors told us that all of Iraq's one-time arsenal, the nuclear program, the chemical weapons production capability, the long-range ballistic program, and the physical infrastructure for those programs was destroyed.
That's right.
By the UN Special Commission. These assertions turned out to be correct. Democrats like to blame only then President George W. Bush for getting us into Iraq. But Bush could not have done it with Republican votes alone. To his credit, he asked for an Iraq resolution in a Senate in which Democrats held a slight majority. Still, 29 of 50 Democratic senators voted for the Iraq resolution, giving Bush the authority to attack Iraq.
See? Two-party system. There's your problem.
Some of those Democratic senators who voted for the Iraq War now have increased stature. That group includes John Kerry, who was the Democratic presidential nominee in 2004 and who is now Secretary of State, Harry Reid, who is now Senate Majority Leader, Joe Biden, who is now Vice President, and Hillary Clinton, who polls say is the most admired Democrat and likely presidential nominee in 2016. So, despite the fact that 60% of Americans believe the Iraq War was not worth it, we are likely to be fighting more wars because most Republicans admittedly are hawks.
Oh, yeah.
And the supposedly peace-loving Democratic Party and our Peace Prize president...
All right. Where you left off?
actually promote Democratic senators who vote for war.
So we have a lot of blue dog Democrats in Washington, huh?
Well, they're all, corporate and fear of being called unpatriotic.
So many Democrats and possibly liberals also have this obsession with being loved and accepted, and they're afraid of being labeled by somebody else.
Well, they're afraid of being labeled weak.
Well, Barack Obama is still preoccupied with this bipartisanship compromising. I'm sick of it. Why do we need to compromise with Republicans
to get something done?
But
they own the House.
But they're scumbags. Isn't it better to expose them and let the American people know how vile they are?
They've been exposed. They still wield power.
But people are still blaming Obama for everything.
A lot of people.
So they're not being exposed enough. Or sufficiently.
Or called unpatriotic. And
unpatriotic.
Haters of government. Because that's what they're doing. They're destroying the United States.
Unpatriotic. I suppose it's patriotic to allow companies to outsource all of our jobs.
Yes, and not pay taxes.
And for the rich not to pay taxes. That's patriotic.
That's patriotic, yes.
And keeping all your money offshore.
Don't bring it back here because we'll tax you to death.
Swiss bank accounts. Oh yeah. And where are the tariffs slapped on the products coming back into the United States? I don't see any tariffs.
Where are the jobs?
Where's our jobs? Where's our jobs? They're taking. They blame people of color. They blame immigrants for taking. They're taking our jobs in America. They're taking our jobs. Where's our jobs?
And they're on welfare too. They're on welfare.
Oh yeah, the people crossing the border working very long hours for chicken feed pay. Oh yeah. A Republican, an elitist, has no problem with illegal immigrants coming from south of the border as long as they're working for next to nothing, and they pay them next to nothing, or slave labor.
Housekeeping for some Republican, yes.
I've heard of situations where some nannies were not getting paid and they were being abused, and there's also big sex trafficking and human slavery going on due to capitalism abroad. Like child labor. There was a big show on recently
in Iraq too.
Child labor?
No, sex trafficking.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying there's slave labor trafficking, human trafficking.
That's all over.
Going on all over the world. Yeah, but didn't
you see the guy the other day on a conservative town meeting or something defending slavery?
Well, he's a greedy Republican.
Yeah,
but we're talking about women from third world countries being hoodwinked, promised modeling jobs or whatever, and it ends up being pornography or prostitution or
sex slaves.
Yeah, these people, child labor is very popular in these third world countries, but the point is
popular in this country once too.
Look,
except for until the unions.
Until the unions stopped it.
Yeah.
Turn of the century, right?
Yeah.
But who do you think is behind all these slave labor camps and child labor? The big corporations are behind it.
Yes.
That's why I'm carrying on about this. The corporations are behind this.
Because they don't want to pay a fair wage.
They don't want to pay any wage.
Yeah.
That's why
that's even better. That's why they got the prison populations working for them now.
Privatized prisons.
Yeah.
Why do you think we have them now?
Yeah.
A sneaky way to get slave labor.
Yeah.
And the point is, you don't hear about this in the mainstream American media.
No.
By the way.
And most people don't care about it anyway. They'd rather party.
Oh, they want to party and feel good and,
Yeah.
and watch stupid fat slob,
Reach on to me smooth things, not these bad things.
obese, inbred morons,
I think she has a thyroid
honey
problem.
boo boo, and her fat mother. She must have triple chins.
I think she has a thyroid problem.
I don't care what she has. Americans are obsessed with this stupid crap. The Kardashians, a bunch of spoiled sluts. This is what America wants. They don't want to hear about politics. Meanwhile,
And they don't want to fix things that are wrong.
they don't want to solve the problem. They want to complain.
They want the big daddy to do it.
This is why, the big daddy, the evangelist, or the political leaders to do everything. They don't want to get involved. Hey, it's they allow it to happen. It's time for the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman's gastronomic delight known as lunch,
Food.
followed by mega dose high supplementation. So after our break, we'll catch you back here for progressive discussions. Dr. Billy Bones, everything, the cost of everything in this part of the country or world, this region, the New York metropolitan tri-state area, is astronomically high. It is a rip-off because my theory is the business people in this area are using the excuse of being near the Big Apple, probably one of the greatest tourist attractions of the world, being near New York City, as an excuse to jack up all their prices on products and services, whether it be retail, whether it be restaurants, whatever. Somebody is even buying a car. They went out to a dealership near Hershey, Pennsylvania, instead of over here. They saved $10,000 on a Chevrolet Corvette. That $10,000 cheaper on a Chevy Corvette. So everything.
Well, everything is more expensive in this neck of the woods.
Rents.
You go to Mississippi,
Even-
things are a little cheaper.
Even rent,
Yeah.
price of homes, cost of living. You name it, and they use it as an excuse, being near New York City, to jack everything up. Now, do you see how this game of capitalism works? I mean, like, they're deregulated because of conservatives, so they're allowed to come up with bullshit
Well, we're supposed to be in a deflationary period,
reasons for
which
ripping
means
people
that
off.
prices go down.
Right.
But they haven't. And inflation itself is under control. It's, I don't know, 2% or whatever. So how do you account for it?
And statistically, Obama is the lowest spender of all the most recent presidents. Then definitely a lot lower than.
Don't forget, as I say all the time,
the Republicans,
the Afghanistan war, the Iraq war, Medicare Part D,
the bailouts,
and the tax cuts for the rich. These things are leftovers from, let's hear it,
G.W. Bush.
G.W. Bush! They're part of the deficit.
The best way to stimulate the economy, even though you stupid teabaggers won't listen, is to put more money in the pockets of the little guy,
Yeah.
the true consumer. And jobs are created according to demand.
But
But if they're all outsourced,
it was chosen, a deliberate choice, to give it to the banks instead of the people.
yeah, well, they didn't do
Okay.
it. They didn't do what Iceland did. They didn't throw the
And now
banksters-
Cyprus
Cyprus.
told them to go to hell.
I mean Cyprus. It's Cyprus.
Cyprus, whatever
The
however
island
you
of
pronounce
Cyprus. It's an island in the Mediterranean.
Correct.
Cyprus.
it. I think it's only got about 1 million people.
It's
But they
yeah.
told the banks to screw off.
In Iceland,
The government wanted to rip money off from them to pay the stinking banks.
Right. In Iceland, they threw them in prison, the crooked banksters. In the United States, they get off scot-free.
They get accolades as being heroes.
Why do you think Bernard Madoff, the man that made off with everybody's money, why do you think he got such a long prison sentence and not the Goldman Sachs boys? Do you think maybe he ripped off the wrong people?
Could be, but hey, the Securities and Exchange Commission looked at his case like maybe 9 times and gave him a clean bill of health every time. Because in those days of the G.W. Bush administration, it was no regulation. The watchdogs were asleep at the switch.
So if you're a sleazy, crooked bastard,
got away with it.
You got away with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Dr. Bill having his lunch, I want to announce that last night I made, for the first time this year, I make it every year, for the first time this year I made my Hellfire chili in the my 6-quart Presto stainless steel pressure cooker. I made Hellfire venison dough chili, which means I had a venison pot roast from a female deer, a doe.
A deer, a female deer.
Yeah.
Right? A drop of golden sun.
Drop of golden sun, right. It was a doe. Not dough as in baking a loaf of bread, but doe, a female deer. It was a doe, it was a doe. It was a doe roast, pot roast.
Cool.
From a venison, a deer from the Adirondack Mountains of New York State, which feed on acorns and all kinds of. It was pretty good meat. Very lean, but when you cook it in a pressure cooker, the toughness of the lean wild game softens up and it breaks apart, and it was delicious. Long story short, it was absolutely wonderful. I used 3. I have a big bag frozen in the freezer from last year's growing season. I have all Caribbean red hot peppers that I picked last year, that I grow myself. I have them in the freezer, so I took 3 of the Caribbean red hot peppers, cut the stem off, I cut them in half, and 3 is all it takes. And I
3 might be too many.
Well, for you, not for me.
Well,
so
of course not.
I put them, I browned them, I roasted them in extra virgin olive oil with a couple large whole onions and garlic. I'd say about several nice-sized garlic cloves. I flatten them with the chef knife. I squash them, take the skin right off. You don't have to chop them, you know. Actually, in a pressure cooker, you don't have to cut up the onions because they will unravel when the meal is done. Because of the power of the pressure cooker, the onions will unravel as you stir it with the ladle. You don't have to chop it, which is another reason why I love the pressure cooker. I had a bag of dried red kidney beans, a large can of crushed tomatoes. I put a handful of cilantro, about a couple heaping teaspoons of coriander powder, sea salt. I put a heaping teaspoon of South Indian curry masala. It's called samba, I think.
Samba.
Sambar, I believe it's called. It's a South Indian curry. And what else did I put in there? And of course the venison roast. 3 large bay leaves.
3. You make sure you get 3 out. You put 3 in, you better make sure you get 3 out. They stick in your throat, boy, you'll be dead.
They softened.
They'll stick in your throat.
Yeah, but in the pressure cooker.
Take them out.
Yeah, but I can't find them.
Ah!
Well, I know they're rigid and sharp and hard when they're dry, but in the pressure cooker, apparently, they softened. Oh, well, otherwise, I do take them out. You know, so that was it. And about 45 minutes in the pressure cooker is all it took. And of course, when you shut the flame off, you wait for the pressure to come down until that little white safety button goes click and lowers, and then you can open up the lid. You can unscrew it. And it was delicious, like always. My brother-in-law loves to go deer hunting, and he had a very successful hunting season this year, and his extra freezer in the basement is loaded with venison. And I really enjoyed it, and I ate a lot of it, and then I froze the leftover like I normally do in a large rectangular Glad container, and I look forward to getting another venison roast from him and making it again. That's how much I loved it. You know, with the tomatoes and the spices, you don't really know it's wild game. But you know what I made one time? I just remembered. I took one of those venison pot roasts and I made venison sauerbraten one time. Yeah, venison sauerbraten, and you know, it came out delicious. It came out great. What I did was I took a big handful of pickling spices and I filled up a medium pot with filtered water from the Brita, and I slowly boiled it until it got dark. And then after it got very dark, I strained out well, no, I left it in there actually. I left the pickling spices in there, and I put 1 cup of lately I've been using the sugarcane vinegar from the Philippines, so I put 1 cup of sugarcane vinegar instead of white vinegar, and I let that marinate. After I defrosted the pot roast of the venison, I let it marinate, submerge for 3 days. And that was it. And it was very good. It was really great sauerbraten. I think I put a teaspoon of ginger powder in there too, because some Germans they use the ginger snap cookie to make the gravy. You know, instead of putting the flour in the drippings to make the sauerbraten gravy, they'll use ginger snaps. Not every German does that, but many do.
Cool. Which
adds a nice flavor. But you could use flour, you know, I mean, you can use unbleached all-purpose flour if you're putting ginger powder into the marinade. Okay, you're done?
Yep.
Okay. So it was good. It was good.
Goody.
So this week's show will be posted on the Everything is Food Facebook food and drink group, because we had Chiselers Hall of Shame today.
Another glass.
And now I shared a couple of good recipes with the folks. Is this painting not done yet?
Almost.
What?
Almost.
Almost, okay. All right, let us get back to sinking our teeth into these readings.
No results from looking at the split second after the Big Bang indicate that the universe is 80 million years older than previously thought, and provide ancient evidence supporting core concepts about the cosmos, how it began, what it's made of, where it's going. The findings released on Thursday bolster a key theory called inflation, which says the universe burst from subatomic size to its now observable expanse in a fraction of a second. The new observations from the European Space Agency's $900 million Planck space probe appear to reinforce some predictions made decades ago solely on the basis of mathematical concepts. We've uncovered a fundamental truth of the universe. There's less stuff that we don't understand by a tiny amount. It's a big pat on the back for our understanding of the universe. In terms of describing the current universe, I think we have a right to say we're on the right track. The Big Bang, the most comprehensive theory of the universe's beginning, says the visible portion of the universe was smaller than an atom. When it's in a split second, it exploded, cooled, and expanded faster than the speed of light. The Planck space probe looked back at the afterglow of the Big Bang, and those results have now added about 80 million years to the universe's age, putting it at 13.81 billion years old.
Wow.
The probe, named for the German physicist Max Planck, the originator of quantum physics,
Really?
also found that the cosmos is expanding a bit slower than originally thought, has a little less of that mysterious dark energy than astronomers had figured, and has a tad more normal matter.
You see that lovely photo of the Andromeda Galaxy that I put on my as my Facebook cover? It's a new photo of Andromeda. It's very clear.
Well, some probe, which was launched, I don't know, 17 years ago or whatever the hell it is now so far away that it gave a picture of the Earth in the Milky Way, which is just a tiny speck.
Oh yeah. If you're far enough away from the Earth. I mean, but the Andromeda is larger than the Milky Way galaxy, and there are other galaxies larger than Andromeda.
And gee whiz.
Suns that are bigger than our sun, that make our sun look like a speck.
And gee whiz, I wonder what those who call themselves
Christians, yeah.
would think that this universe, or as it's called in the Bible, the creation, what is it for? Since this new thing that you're watching on the History Channel, the Bible,
Yeah.
it will not give you any information about the red thread.
No.
It will only give you the stories.
Good for Hollywood.
Okay? Yeah.
Hollywood-style Bible stories.
But the red thread of the Bible, the creation, is now waiting for the sons of God. It is travailing. It has been put into a condition of travail, awaiting the sons of God to begin the experiments that God did here on this earth. Again, on other planets.
Do
they know anything about that?
When you say experiment, you mean like when God created the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve?
The experiment being God reproducing himself. That's the experiment. Okay? But scientists say those are small changes in calculations about the universe whose numbers are so massive. Officials at NASA, which also was part of the experiment, said the Planck probe has provided a deeper understanding of the intricate history of the universe and its complex composition. A Planck scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab said, "The new results are giving astronomers a treasure trove of spectacular data and bringing forth a deeper understanding of the properties and history of the universe."
Really?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of outer space, it was William Shatner's birthday. It was either yesterday or the day before.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, William Shatner. I guess he's in his low 80s, somewhere. 81 or 80, I don't know. But he's around there, ballpark figure. And he made a statement that that Hulu was playing Star Trek all day for free. So I don't know what that means. Like I guess they were playing it in honor of his birthday. But when he said playing it for free, does that mean that he's not getting royalties?
You're not getting royalties on those shows.
On the Hulu doing the Star Trek marathon?
Not as cast members, and that sort of stuff.
Well, George Takei couldn't stand him. They don't get along. They're always taunting each other on the internet.
How come?
I don't know. He hates him. George Takei does not like William Shatner at all. He did not invite him to his wedding, and I think he said something about everything was about Shatner, and
Well, he was the captain.
Yeah, well, what does he want? George Takei wasn't the captain.
Zulu was only a driver of the ship. He was on the console there, driving the ship with the other guy.
And Scotty was in the engine room with his bottle of scotch.
Yeah. Captain, I cannot give you no more power.
Did the power come from dilithium
crystals?
Dilithium crystals or Scotch whiskey?
Scotty's power came from the whiskey. Remember when he drank that, what was it, the Klingon? Under the table?
Klingon brandy? Whatever it was.
He drank him under the table. He was soused as a...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't outdrink an Irishman or a Scotsman. It's not going to happen. What was the, oh, man. Yeah, I mean, they were classics. They were low budget, but they were classics. Dilithium crystals.
A prominent Republican lawmaker in Arizona
That figures.
wants to link public bathroom use to birth certificates in what civil rights advocates are calling the nation's toughest anti-transgender measure.
Gee,
They never stop.
They don't stop with this. The morality and lectures on morality and religion, and their bigotry towards. So in other words, they don't want trannies to be able to use a public bathroom.
Let's say you are a in transition tranny from male to female.
Right.
If your birth certificate said male,
right,
they want you to use the male bathroom.
Right, because you have a schlong. You have a dick and a pair of balls. Gonads.
There was a guy on, I believe it was Piers Morgan.
So the men would be like probably very startled when the tranny walks into the men's room, because some of them look very female. You wouldn't know it until you saw the bulge.
Until he dropped her drawers.
Dropped her drawers.
Yeah. The bill would require people to use public restrooms, dressing rooms, locker rooms associated with the sex listed on their birth certificates, or face 6 months in jail.
This sounds so typical of Arizona or Texas, you know, or Alabama or Mississippi, or mostly Arizona and Texas. It sounds so much like.
Well, remember when Governor Jan Brewer shook her finger in Obama's face?
I mean,
I got a tidbit in the
in person.
Yeah,
she did that.
Yeah, I got a tidbit in the new newsletter where she punches a guy in the right shoulder because she didn't like the question he asked about global warming.
She bipolar?
Who the hell knows? She's probably bye with her mind. Her mind is
She
bye-bye.
didn't like the question, so she punched him?
Where the hell did that question come
And she
from?
shook her finger in the president's face?
Oh, yeah.
As a Secret Service agent, I would immediately get in front of Jan Brewer.
Yeah, I would have pushed her down.
I would have tackled her.
Yeah.
I would have tackled her and put her in an arm lock.
Yeah.
If I was a CIA agent.
Secret Service.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Nope.
I don't care if you agree or disagree with the president's politics. You don't do that.
Yep.
You don't get into his personal space and shake your finger in his face.
The proposal has been scheduled for a vote on Wednesday.
I mean, Mitch McConnell, I wouldn't feel sorry for if he got punched out, but not President Obama.
But in an unusual scene for the usually staid halls of state government, men in dresses, women in business suits, and other transgender supporters crowded into the committee room and the lobby of the House to protest the legislation. Minutes after the meeting started, State Representative John Kavanaugh said he would delay the debate on his bill because of a paperwork error. Arizona's measure and the response it received on Wednesday reflects a growing national debate over what kind of restroom can be accessed by men and women presenting as a gender other than what they were born as.
Mm-hmm.
With more people identifying as a transgender state, and local governments are increasingly banning gender identity discrimination to ward off legal battles, but opponents and proponents alike complain the laws don't explicitly demand businesses provide equal access for transgender people, creating confusion over how governments, restaurants, clothing stores, and others establishments must act. One local television station has dubbed Arizona's legislation the "Show Me Your Papers Before You Go to Potty" bill.
Papers before potty.
A reference to the state legislature's sweeping 2010 immigration law. Among those waiting to speak out against the bill on Wednesday was Phoenix resident Erica Kepler. She was born a man, but doesn't feel comfortable in men's bathrooms or locker rooms with her earrings, long hair, and feminine clothing.
Well, if a transsexual, male to female, goes into the ladies' room, they're going to be in a stall because there are no urinals in the ladies' room. So if they're in a stall, you have privacy, and nobody's going to see your schlong flopping in the breeze. So.
Well, yeah, obviously, if you wanted to enforce this bill, you'd have to have a squealer.
Yes.
That's the only thing unless the representatives go into the bathroom with you.
Don't they have anything better to do in Arizona?
No.
What about?
And it ain't only Arizona.
What about all the contraband and the drug trafficking and things getting smuggled across the border in Arizona? I mean, don't they have enough to worry about?
The Republicans have nothing better to do than stick their noses into your bedroom.
They're always sticking their noses into our private lives.
And then they speak about freedom and liberty.
It's more like fascism to me.
Well, freedom and liberty so you can shop for the corporations, not for the little guy. Do not be fooled
I mean,
that any of this rhetoric has anything to do with the little guy.
I mean, they don't even they didn't even like the protesters in at Wall Street. You know, the protest
They tried to sabotage them.
They tried to. They kicked them out of the park. Whatever the hell that place was called, Zuccotti Park or something.
Zuccotti Park, yes.
They kicked them out of there. Then all of a sudden, you started seeing protesters being roughed up and arrested all over the country.
Yeah, they certainly put a stop to it, didn't they?
Because
now protesters are terrorists, ipso facto, ergo.
In other words, free speech.
Correct. Unless you're a corporation.
They took away your free speech.
Then your money is your speech.
So that means that a corporation, which is looked upon as a person nowadays, is more of a person than a person.
Oh, they have better. Oh, they have more freedom and more liberty. Oh, yes, of course. I tell you.
You're more of a person than an actual person.
Those words are not for the little guy. They are for the big boys and girls. Liberty and freedom. The only freedom you have is to go shop.
It's getting like
preferably at Walmart.
It's getting like the old days when the royal family controlled the whole country, the monarchy, feudalism, right? The feudal. Now, is the feudalistic oligarch a synonymous in meaning with the corporate plutocracy? Is there a lot of things that are synonymous between
in
those
feudal
two?
days, we didn't have factories and corporations and things like that. It was all done by individual people.
Right.
And they grew up in their business. Yeah. Their business was their business, but it wasn't like a corporation.
No, like in the case of Ireland, the Irish couldn't own any industry. Everything was controlled. All the money went to the King of England. And the Irish only were allowed to have, whatever.
They were like a colony.
Whatever little, they were colonized. Whatever little land was around their cottage, they were allowed to have livestock and grow food based on whatever they had around their cottage.
And so much went to the king.
And as far as industry, like I guess sheep herding and beef and commercial fishing, everything went to the king. So it kind of like sounds like a typical feudalistic oligarch.
Well, remember, what we know as capitalism grew out of feudalism.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? But they've made it so godly with the propaganda.
Yes, they tied it up with patriotism.
Patriotism and Christianity. They
Mom,
have
apple pie, and Chevrolet.
They have what's the opposite of demonizing something?
Glorifying.
Glorifying something?
Yeah.
Glorification. Yeah. They've cloaked it in a sort of facade. They put a sort of facade around capitalism.
When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the Bible and the crucifix. And the American flag, excuse me.
Right.
There was I saw on TV yesterday.
The first horseman of the apocalypse, the white horse.
False Christianity.
False religion and false prophets.
False prophets.
That's what we have now. The white horse is here. Now, what were you saying?
I said what I was saying. Fascism will be wrapped up in mom, apple pie, the flag, crucifix.
Holy cross.
There was something about, I saw something on the news about the crosses. One place the cross was okayed, one place the cross was not okayed. But the cross is not a Christian symbol.
No.
Jesus was not nailed to a cross. He was nailed to a stake.
So
Uno pole.
So
not a cross.
So the traditional Roman crucifixion was simply somebody that was attached
to a stake
with arms overhead onto a stake, a pole.
Right.
There was no
cross-
horizontal plank attached to
The
this.
cross precedes Christianity. Has nothing to do with it as a symbol. The fish is a symbol of Christianity.
Right.
Not the cross.
Okay.
But yet what do you see? People screaming and yelling, I want a nativity put up on Christmas time. I want a cross on this, I want a cross. I wear this cross around my neck. I love Jesus. It's all crap.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do with the Bible.
I like fish. I like the fish symbol.
Well, that's the symbol of Christianity, the fish. I don't know what kind of fish, but the fish.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I don't know what fish were in the Sea of Galilee.
Oh, a lot of fish.
Why did they call it the Sea of Galilee? It was a damn lake.
Well, it was near Galilee.
But it wasn't a sea.
Hey,
Like the Dead Sea. It's not a sea.
how about the Red Sea?
That's a sea.
Was that a sea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's big because it's real big.
Okay.
But not the Sea of Galilee. These Bible study people. Oh, the Sea of Galilee. He had all these commercial fishermen that went out on the Sea of Galilee. It was a lake. I don't know what kind of fish Peter filled his boat up with. I have no idea what fish are indigenous to that lake.
Well, it must have been a variety.
You know, when they first came out with tilapia in the fish market, they were calling it St. Peter's fish. Why? What? They just gave it that name so they could sell it? I don't know why tilapia is actually in the Sea of Galilee. I don't know.
I have no idea about varieties of fish.
It's a maybe it's a
I don't get my fish from the Sea of Galilee. I get it from the local supermarket.
out of a can.
Yeah, I get my salmon out of a can.
Oh, I'm having
North Atlantic.
I'm having fresh salmon fillet for dinner today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. If the measure becomes law, it is said she, Kepler, will be forced to go to jail or expose herself as a transgender woman each time she uses a public bathroom. So there'll be somebody in the bathroom where you have to expose yourself or present them at the same time with your birth certificate?
You have to show.
What the hell?
What if you got to pee really bad?
If I had to do that, I'd pee on the guy who was, looking
I
for
pee
my
on
birth
his
certificate.
shoes.
Yeah, something like that.
If you had to stand
against the wall,
if
man.
if you had to stand there and wait for him to look at your papers and your genitalia, I would just urinate right on his shoes.
Well, in the Bible, there's a lot of pissing against the wall. So yeah, I would do that. Why not?
It's ridiculous.
Most transgender people try to slip through public places without being noticed, Kepler said. This will turn us into criminals. The term transgender covers men and women whose identity does not match with their birth-assigned sex, including cross-dressers and people who don't want to alter their bodies hormonally or surgically.
Let me guess. Nobody that has a sex shop can open up a business in Arizona.
That would be interesting to find out whether they are like Alabama, where you can't have a vibrator. God forbid it would give you a little pleasure.
So, in other words, well, the malls have an exotic store called Spencer Gifts. So, what you're saying is, if there's a shopping mall in Alabama, and there's a Spencer Gifts in there, it would be a state law that.
And they're selling vibrators.
Well, they do sell vibrators, but they're not promoted as dildos.
Oh, of course not, but still.
But they're
What the hell?
personal massager. I think they're called personal
what right do
massagers.
they have, the state of Alabama, to ban a personal massager or a sexual gratification implement?
Listen, if a woman can't get a toy, she could use a damn zucchini or a cucumber.
Why should she have to?
True.
She has a right to get the toy.
It's a toy, for God's sake. It's her body. It's a toy.
How come the goody two-shoes Republicans on the Supreme Court
That never get laid.
didn't say that was some sort of interference with commerce,
Yeah. Well, I guess
stopping the sale of vibrators?
I guess Republicans like Ann the Cunter of Fox
Coulter.
News, Coulter, or Jan Brewer, or any of them really, any of the conservative coven of witches. I guess they don't have sex. They're all celibate, right?
Possibly, or they just have no abilities to experience pleasure. You know, a lot of people can't do that. You know?
No, they're told like the Victorian era, just lay down and think of the Queen. That's what they used to say.
I guess maybe that's how she got pregnant from Todd, maybe.
Yeah, that you're not supposed to. Women are not supposed to seek
Gratification.
sensual gratification.
Orgasm.
Orgasm.
Women's orgasm was never a big subject throughout history.
No.
And I don't think it has any relevance at all in what you would call your Arab countries.
No.
Or those countries where they cover their females from head to toe.
Well, females are probably third-class citizens, right behind the family dog.
Or donkey.
Or donkey. I mean, or camel.
Camel, yeah.
I mean, but of course, heaven forbid that a man throughout history was deprived, but a woman can't be gratified.
No, because she'll turn into a slut.
Yeah.
If she finds any sort of gratification, she will turn into a slut. But a man, he can turn into a slut.
Yeah, it's fornication when it involves the woman, but not when it involves the man.
Fornication before marriage. Fornication.
Before marriage.
Before marriage. Because
Which is
once
only
you
a-
stick your dickie, the first woman you stick your dickie in, hopefully it's a woman, you are married to.
Oh, really?
As Paul says, you know, basically I'm paraphrasing. He makes the point about if you put your dick in a prostitute, you're married to her.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, regardless who that woman is.
And then anything that comes after that is adultery.
Okay. What about the old saying that it takes two to do the tango? What if the couple has absolutely no love whatsoever for one another? You're still married to that person?
Yep. Transgender people often have a hard time changing the gender on a birth certificate because many states require proof of gender treatment surgery, which is expensive and often not covered by health insurance.
Yeah, there are different levels of genderism. You know, I mean, what if somebody is in the first stage of transformation? You know, you have to take hormones for
in
a certain period of time.
In vanilla porn today,
Yeah.
Transsexuals are very popular. Very popular.
They have become popular. The male to female.
As long as they still have the male organ.
Yeah, I've never
You know,
seen.
so they may have the breasts and they're doing the hormones.
And they have the curves.
They still have the
Yes.
male.
Yes, they have the skin, the curves, the face, and the breasts. Because the hair, I mean, the long hair doesn't mean anything. I mean, they could always grow it, but they have the attributes except the genitalia of a woman.
And the genitalia still work.
See, that's the amazing part. If you're taking estrogens and progesterones, okay, that is supposed to suppress
Well,
testosterone,
eventually it will, it should.
because testosterone controls sex drive in both men and women. Okay, but there's one thing I noticed. Some of the transgenders, they have the penis size, but they have shrunken testes. They have small testes, but others have normal testes.
I guess it depends where you are in your hormonal therapy.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if you're in
How far you want to go.
Yeah, if you're advanced and you're getting maybe intramuscular injections after a long period of time,
then I would imagine you got shrink.
and then with the testicles.
Remember what happened to George in Seinfeld? When he came out of the shower?
No, it came out of the pool.
Was it the pool?
Yeah, it was not. They were in the Hamptons, and the pool.
It was cold.
The pool was cold. It wasn't heated. Because I guess the owner of the home was too cheap to have a heater installed.
No, that's not what it looks like!
Yeah, it shrinks.
Normally.
It's shrinkage. Well, the women that Jerry and a lot of the women that they date are like typical New York City crazy broads.
They were as self-centered as Jerry and
Yeah,
George.
they were. Yeah, they were very petty, just like them. Self-centered, petty, materialistic. Same thing with Sex in the City. Samantha and all that. They're all typical. Petty, superficial city girls, which I do not particularly like. I like honest, down to salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth. Popeye. Olive oil.
Oh.
Olive oil, salt of the earth.
No. She's too bony.
And she's not even on any hormones.
No.
That's probably her problem. She didn't have any hormones.
She didn't have any food. I think Bluto got all the food. And Wimpy.
No, Wimpy.
Wimpy, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. Hey, you know what?
Wimpy.
We haven't used the levity bells.
Maybe we haven't been levitating.
Yeah, this is the first funny stuff that we're talking about. The levity bells. All right, something worth ringing them for. Continue.
Other states, including Ohio and Idaho, do not allow birth certificate changes for gender. Discriminating against transgender people is illegal in at least 16 states. Minnesota prohibits discrimination in employment, housing, education, and public accommodations. Hawaii laws apply only to housing. More than 100 cities, counties have passed laws prohibiting gender identities discrimination, including Phoenix, Atlanta, New Orleans, Dallas. Some state laws are being tested in court. In one case, a Colorado family filed a complaint with the state civil rights office after their first grader, who was born a boy, was prohibited from using the girls' bathroom at her elementary school.
And what do all these cities have in common? Well,
Republican legislators.
They are Southern Bible Belt red states.
Or western states, Idaho.
Yeah, red. They're
Colorado.
red. They're red states. Yeah, right-wing fundamentalist, zealot, red states.
In Arizona, where Republicans control state government,
No kidding.
Kavanaugh said government should not allow people to use the facilities based on you are what you think you are. He said he was worried an anti-discrimination ban passed in Phoenix last month would serve as a cover for pedophiles who want to expose themselves to children of the opposite gender. What does that have to do with pedophiles?
Has nothing to do with that. So, so if somebody's gay, they're automatically pedophile?
Yes, Republicans believe that all gays are pedophiles.
That's not right.
Of course it's not right. Nothing Republicans do is right. The law simply wants to restore the law of society. Men are men, and women are women.
Sounds like Archie Bunker's song.
For a handful of people to make everyone else uncomfortable just makes no sense.
Yes.
Some fret that anti-discriminatory laws force businesses to spend money on renovations, to provide unisex facilities, and avoid complaints from customers who don't want to share bathrooms and dressing rooms with transgender people. They say Arizona's proposed law would instead protect businesses from bogus complaints from people who are not transgender. Someone can just say, "Oh, I feel like I am a woman." That person can just say, "You are discriminating against me." But Mason Davis, executive director for the Transgender Law Center in San Francisco, said Arizona's proposed ban would target people who look different, regardless if they are transgender or not. No one should have to live in a world where they have to show their papers to pee.
Unbelievable. The only paper you should be concerned with is the toilet paper.
At that time, yeah.
Well, there you have it. Did you see that article on the health group about all of the many health problems associated with high soybean consumption? I wonder if it had to do with genetically modified soy. That's the
70% or more of all the soy in America is a GMO.
Is GMO soy. Yeah. You have a short one, but a goodie?
With Passover less than 3 weeks away, the timing of a massive infestation of locusts in Egypt is striking many Israelis as downright biblical.
Sounds like it.
Millions of the grasshopper-like insects swarmed Israel's southern neighbor, damaging crops. Some have since made their way to southern Israel.
Is it possible to acquire a pet locust?
Remember,
in a bird cage?
It's still a wild animal, and it could turn on you at any time.
Even if in a praying mantis? I've handled them
Of course,
before.
it could bite off your head.
No, it can't. I've handled them many times. They're fascinating creatures.
One came in on my shoulder.
I think they're
from
great.
Outside.
Over here?
Yeah. I don't know where it came from, but it was on my shoulder.
They're very rare. I mean.
A brown one. He wasn't green, he was brown, so whatever he was on.
No, they changed.
Chameleon-like.
Yeah, I have a feeling they changed from green to brown.
Yeah. On the eve of Passover, which this year begins at sundown, March 25, which is bye-bye already, no?
Mm-hmm.
What's the thing?
Well, almost.
What's the thing
It's
saying?
the 23rd, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's not here yet. Monday.
Monday is the 25th?
Yeah. Jews around the world will recall the Exodus story and the 10 plagues that befell Egypt. According to the Old Testament book of Exodus, God sent 10 plagues to Egypt because the Pharaoh refused to let my people go.
And then after they won their freedom, Moses came down with the tablets, the 10 Commandments, and they already turned their back on God.
Hey, that was after 40 years in the wilderness.
With the golden calf.
God took them 40 years into the wilderness before Mount Sinai.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What were they doing wandering around in the wilderness?
Well, it's because that generation was beyond repair.
They were eating manna from heaven?
Well, that's because they didn't believe God. God told them on Friday, don't go out and get food for the next day, Saturday. I will provide it. So the people who didn't believe him and did it, the manna turned to worms. Those who obeyed him, that took in the 2 days' worth and didn't go out on Saturday and rested, they had manna for 2 days. But it was that he was trying to instill faith in them.
Yeah, well,
but they were a lost generation. That's why they did not inherit the land of Canaan, the promised land. Joshua did. The next generation.
Did Canaan incorporate Jerusalem and Bethlehem and all that? That's part of the land of Canaan?
Yeah, but Joshua had to kick out a lot of people that were there first.
Oh.
Like the Hittites and the Perizzites and all the other sites, and, you know, they had to be kicked out. Because God didn't want them there.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would have turned Israel's head.
Well,
and they did anyway.
Well, yeah, look at people like the wicked King Herod, you know.
There were 3 Herods.
There were 3 Herods?
Yeah.
And every one of them sucked.
Yeah. One was the grandson, one was the father, one was the son. The one that was there in BC 4, when Jesus was born.
He had his eldest son killed, and even though he was dying. Herod.
Yeah, that one I think he
thought everybody was after his throne or something.
Oh, they all were. They all were.
But they probably all were after that throne.
Hey, what happened, you know, after Muhammad? All the caliphs and everything, they killed each other. You know, but with their what we call today, their Secret Service people used to kill them or whatever to take over. Oh my God, come on. Hey, power is a dangerous thing.
They're paranoid about anybody who could take their power away.
It brings out the worst in people.
It's vanity, selfishness.
Yeah.
Isn't that the first sin committed by Lucifer? Vanity, selfishness.
Selfishness. Corruption was found within him.
Right, and then later on in modern days, Ayn Rand and all the conservatives will say it's a virtue.
The goddess Rand.
It's a virtue.
Selfishness is a virtue.
They make out selfishness to be a virtue.
That's right. That's right.
So who are they serving? Not the God of the Bible.
The God of this world.
The God of this world.
Satan.
That's right. False prophets, the white horse of the apocalypse. So wake up, people. Republicans. It's all there. It's plain and simple to understand.
Locusts were the 8th plague.
Okay.
The Pharaoh relented after the 10th plague, and the Israelites left. And by the way, when they left, the Egyptians gave them gold and silver and all kinds of riches and things to get them the hell out of there. You know, because there was a lot of trouble while they were still there. God was causing a lot of trouble. But the Egyptian army pursued them because God had hardened his heart. Because he wanted to show Israel his power and glory. The Egyptian army pursued them until the soldiers drowned in the Red Sea. Though Israeli agriculture experts are on high alert and fear that the locusts could devastate crops, many Israelis have been more laid back, with some noting that varieties of the leggy pests are kosher. Oh, you can eat them because John the Baptist did.
I was just going to say, they should put up nets as the swarms are coming in and fry them and put a little spices on them, you know.
Deep fried locusts.
Deep fried.
It's on the menu today.
Or what about grilled locusts?
That's a little hard.
Pour some dry rub on them.
Pick up each individual locust and put it on the grill.
No, they're big, aren't they? Aren't they
ain't
big?
that big.
You know,
they'll fall through the crates.
You eat them like nachos. They're probably crunchy.
Yeah, of course it's going to be crunchy.
Did you get that company that's selling bugs as food from Jerry?
Oh, God.
Did you get it in the email?
Oh, God.
I thought about you. I pictured you eating...
Why didn't you think about Zimmer, not me? Or Tony Bourdain.
They actually sold buffalo dung beetles as food. Very appetizing, right? Buffalo dung.
They say,
beetles.
there's some people that say that our protein source in the future will be worms.
I'm thinking
more Soylent Green, to tell you the truth.
I think that Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr should advertise for the consumption of the Beatles for food in their old age. They should do commercials.
No, jeez.
All right, let's finish
Not
up.
only does the Torah, which are the first 5 books of the Bible, written by Moses, not only does the Torah permit man to eat certain mammals, birds, and fish.
I forgot to ring the levity bells when I mentioned Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. All right, continue.
But it even permits him to eat certain insects.
That's right.
Namely, several types of locusts. Although most Jews of European descent have scant experience with locusts and don't know how to identify the kosher kinds, some Jews of North African descent do have the expertise.
There's actually a kosher locust?
Yeah.
Man.
This Rabbi Slifkin proceeded to explain how best to cook the locusts with some oil and spices.
Yeah, that's what I was saying
I
before.
think you'll like it with spices.
Extra virgin olive oil or sesame oil and some spices?
My wife, however, insists that I do not use her kitchen utensils for the task. She is locust intolerant.
She's locust intolerant? She got a little buggy over the whole idea. So,
Hey, here's something small that you were yakking about before.
Okay, let's knock it off because I don't know how much time we have left.
Yeah. In light of the dire financial shape our federal government constantly seems to be in, isn't it time to look at the foreign aid we dole out every year?
Just what I was saying early in the show.
The United States continues to be the top donor in the world, budgeting $54.8 billion in aid in 2013. This is up from $37 billion in 2007. As a small business owner, I certainly haven't seen an increase in my business in the last 5 years, never mind a 40% increase.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it time to fix our country prior to fixing others?
That's right.
My proposal isn't to eliminate all foreign aid, but to cut it in half. Simply reduce our existing commitments by 50%. When are the American people going to stand up and say, enough?
Yeah, there are people in dire need of help right here in the United States, and Obama wants to send $200 million to Jordan to take care of Syrian refugees.
Well, what about the...